Okay, it is Friday morning, and I suppose I better wrap up these videos of my Appalachian Trail section hike. Ken and Adam are taking a day off today, and I'm planning to get back on trail tomorrow morning. So I thought I'd just think about what the trail has meant to me and what I've got out of it and my impressions of it. It's been an ambition of mine since reading Bill Bryson's book, I think over 20 years ago, to come and hike it, some of it in some form. A couple of years ago that idea started to crystallize a little bit more, that a section hike from Appalachian north might work, might be able to do it. And then turning 50 later this year, in a few months' time, became a sort of excuse, if you like, to come and do it. And that's when I started planning in earnest, probably a year or so ago. And yeah, so it's eminently possible. Yeah, it takes a bit of planning. It's important to do a lot of reading, watch a lot of vlogs. There's a lot of excellent vlogs about the trail where you'll learn a lot about what goes on. But I think I found really that my plans really got me to the start at Appalachian with 4 days worth of food. And from there, you just have to sort of work it out. And you can, it's quite easy, really. You talk to other people, you use the resources. I used the Far Out app and the AWOL app, which are excellent, gave you a lot of information. But people on the trail give you a lot of information as well about resupplies, shuttles, places to stay off trail, where's good, where's not so good, that sort of thing. Just like happens in every sort of traveling, backpacking that you might do. So yeah, my experiences of the trail, my thoughts on the trail. Well, it's tough in Georgia and North Carolina, and there's no real easy way to research that. You can read a lot, but you're always conscious that you're reading somebody else's impression of the trail and you don't know what their frame of reference is. For what it's worth, my frame of reference, a long time ago I was in the infantry, so I've done some physical stuff. I worked as a mountain guide in the Scottish Highlands for a few years, and I've done a lot of walking in the Scottish Highlands, a lot of Munros, and other, treks and expeditions, and I found it tough at times. Physically it was tough. Bearing in mind, that's a 49-year-old doing it, not a 25-year-old. I think probably what I wasn't prepared for, and again, this is sort of because you can do all the research you like, but it's a mountain environment, but it was a lot warmer than I thought it was going to be, in that the temperature was consistently in the sort of 70s and 80s during the day. That would top out in the sort of maybe mid-80s, which for those more used to Celsius is probably mid-20s Celsius, and that is warm when you're hiking with a 30-pound backpack up mountains and down mountains, and it's very humid. Typically in sort of April, May time, that mountain environment gets very damp overnight, or can be, and the clouds sort of condense overnight as it cools, and then that creates a very humid atmosphere in the mornings. We were really lucky with the weather. We didn't get much rain. We only really hiked in the rain on the last day, and typically the sun would burn off the clouds sort of by midday, and the afternoons would be very, very warm with that humidity coming out of the ground. So it was hot and sweaty hiking, as will be obvious from the videos. Equally, I gather this time of year, it could have been a lot wetter and quite a bit cooler. There was no time on the trail really where I needed to wear anything more than a couple of t-shirts layered, and I was perfectly warm, and that included being, the earliest part of the morning and stuff. So I didn't find it cold at all. Thoughts on the trail? Well, apart from the arduous nature of it, if you like walking in woods, it's the trail for you. And I think Bill Bryson makes the comment about there could be more viewpoints, and there probably could, and when you do look out at the views, the views are of mountains covered in forestry, and that's what it is. And of course, as it changes, as it goes north, the trail, you get different scenery. So it was, I don't want to say monotonous because that sounds a bit too negative, but you were walking in trees the whole time, and you probably could have done with some more views. And it would be great if the trail touched a bit closer to small towns and things. That would mean you could resupply maybe without having to get a shuttle into town. But look, you're not going to change that because the trail is what it is, and maybe that's what makes it what it is, the fact that it is not easy to get to and from. Information when you're on the trail through the apps, in particular, Far Out and AWOL, is fantastic. So with Far Out, with the GPS on, you'll always know where you are. You always know how far it is to the next water source or the next shelter or the next gap or whatever it might be. So that part of it is very straightforward, and you get used to using those very, very quickly, and they're brilliant resources. But what really makes the trail, and what has really made my experience, are the people on it and the community on it. And that has been fantastic. I'm well aware how lucky I am to have met Linda, Ken, Adam and Lisa on that very first night at Stover Creek Shelter. And we stayed in touch the whole time. Okay, Linda Lisa has been hiking on her own for more of that time, although we're hoping to meet up with her tonight. So there you go. Linda hiked for the first week and then had to go back for some commitments. And that's when the three of us, Adam, Ken and I, carried on. But, from that sort of mid-morning of my second day, if you like, but my first real day on the trail, I hiked pretty much every step of the way with Adam, a guy that I'd never met before. But we just hit it off. And I'm well aware, I was really lucky that happened. And then with Ken as well joining us, again, incredibly lucky. I'm well aware that you could not be that fortunate. You could, just by circumstance, you could be in with groups that you feel you don't fit in with so well or whatever. But it's a great thing, the people that you meet, and you keep bumping into them. You'll bump into them after several days and you think you're never going to see them again. Greg and Vicky being a great example of that. You think they're well ahead of you, and then something's happened in their plans, puts them back a day or two, you catch them up and you meet up again. So that's been great. So yes, I suppose a fitting way to finish this is with a few mentions, in no particular order, I suppose. But Ron Brown, my shuttle driver, a lot of great information, and took me up to Amicalola, really nice guy. And then, who did I meet on the trail? Andrew and Kayla. Andrew gave me my trail name, which we'll maybe talk about in another video. Josh and his dog Dalton. Lisa, as I mentioned, and of course Ken, Linda and Adam. And to give you an example of how the trail can work, Linda hiked the first week with us, then she had to go home for other responsibilities. She came out and met the three of us in Franklin, and I don't know if that was ever part of her plan. I mean, obviously she's come up to see her husband Ken, but also part of the reason she's come up here is to drive me back to Atlanta after my hike. That's a 3-hour drive each way. And 2 weeks ago I'd never met them, and yet she's doing that for me. I'm incredibly grateful, and it's amazing. And I really, really hope we're going to stay in touch. We're already talking. I mean, these are the brave words of 3 guys who've just checked into a hotel after 5 days on the trail, but we're already talking about meeting up again in the future, in future years, and hiking different sections together. And it won't surprise me if that happens. Really hope it does happen. So yeah, that's what you can get out of the trail. I've loved every minute of it. It has 100% lived up to my expectations, my hopes. So yeah, if you're thinking about doing it from the UK or anywhere, it's perfectly possible, and you won't regret it. Okay, well, for now on, as we say, I'll see you further on down the trail.